sense. Some videos will duplicate because it's a part of the contacts applet, but so it'll be in that playlist, but it'll also work well for your 36 touch. So it'll be in that playlist too. But we can connect in the Facebook group. If you need help, let us know. And you know, a lot of times what we're showing you guys, or what I'm showing you guys in classes, it's, you know, is triggering some ideas, and then get with your market center tech trainer to, you know, implement those ideas. If they're not able to, because they're still growing, then, you know, I'll jump in there with them and make sure you guys are all definitely taken care of. Okay. Let's see, let me pull this other one up. We got a lot of tabs down here right this second. This QR code right here is for my Google Drive. And in about a week, I'll have my website up, and that's going to have, like I said, the Zoom will always be hosted there, so you don't always need a link. There'll be the training calendar there as well, and then just a lot of access videos. But if you scan that code, that will send you to Google Drive, and then from within that Google Drive, there will be folders labeled for each class accordingly, and you guys can go pull materials, watch the class, anything in that drive you guys can use. So if there's marketing or, you know, flyers and forms that you want to use in your business, they're there for everybody to use. And I will bring these up at the end as well. So let's kind of jump in. We got to figure out where our PowerPoint went here. We're fighting tabs over here, guys. Give me just a second. We've got a lot of PowerPoints and everything open. Perfect. So we are today talking about setting goals and building a pipeline. Again, jump off Zoom if you guys have any questions. So why do we set goals? Who here sets goals, or who here is willing to say that they haven't yet set goals, or they don't know how to set goals, or maybe they're a little intimidated to set goals, right? Because we hear a lot. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, that should be able to. So when we hear about, you know, setting goals, you know, often attached to that is someone says, you know, set big goals, right? Set goals that scare you. And sometimes there's some personalities that just doesn't work for. You know, a lot of times when I hear people say, you know, setting goals, we're setting really big goals, but we don't always know, you know, what's the path to get to those goals? What do I need to break down into smaller chunks so that I can hit that big chunk? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So, you know, goals, you know, they provide guidance and direction, right? You know, what's the path? What do I need to be doing daily and weekly? We can track, you know, where is my business right now? And, you know, how are we going to project that? We're going to jump into, you know, the pipeline tool in a little bit and talk about some goals we can set daily and how we can monitor our business to know, you know, what does my future look like? You know, if I want to project how my year is going to end, you know, what's it looking like right now? We're pretty much building our pipeline for next year, right? We can still meet a couple of people, a couple of sellers that, you know, want to do business with us this year, but our window of finding a client this year and closing this year, it's getting a little smaller. And so earlier, I think it was Jason talked about the ups and downs of real estate, right? And that's so true. I love what he said. And income works that way too. Now, our goal is to make the dips, you know, when we have some ups and downs, for the trajectory still to be going up. But whenever anyone's sitting there and they're in a little dip in their business, I always ask them, you know, what were we doing 3 to 4 months ago to add people to our pipeline? If I'm sitting there right now and I think to myself, my business isn't where I want it to be, I don't have enough buyers and sellers I'm working with right now, well, what did I do 3 months ago? And when I look back at my business when I was selling, I always had some down months right after summer. And I knew why, because during summer I was taking care of business. I was still working, but I was also taking care of my family, my kids, and maybe my lead gen fell to the back table a little bit. Well, January and February, I was always one of the top agents. Why? Because after summer, I all of a sudden didn't have the business I wanted, and I started lead generating. Guess what? 3-4 months later, those people showed up as deals, and that was January and February. So just be kind of conscious of that. You know, it can motivate us. Some people are motivated by a big goal. Some people are motivated because they realize where they're at compared to the goal, and then maybe they're a little bit behind, and they use that as a little bit of motivation. Again, clarity. When somebody asks us something or a business opportunity, arises, does that fit my goals? Again, one of the things that's important about real estate is staying consistent. And if we're changing our goals or we're getting kind of pulled in different directions with shiny objects, we can absolutely get distracted and then kind of lose that time on task. And I think we're one of the very unique industries where we don't have instant gratification, right? If you're selling insurance, you're selling other things. If I click that button, I want that quote today, this week at most, and then I'm not interested in talking to you. So many people in real estate talk to us now because they're in the information gathering stage. Maybe, they don't have the credit that's quite ready yet, and we've got to follow up with them for 6 months. The gratification, so many agents attach gratification to the closing. Well, what can we attach it to that we know if we do this every day, it's going to lead to the closings? We're going to kind of talk about that in just a few minutes. So again, you guys have all heard this acronym, SMART goals. Make sure that when you're setting goals, they're specific, they're measurable. Are we able to know where we are in the moment? Achievable. That kind of goes back to that realistic. Again, they say you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So don't set a goal that you can hit in 6 months. Push yourself a little bit, and also be okay knowing that if I don't quite hit my goal, but I've grown and I've achieved more than the last year, there's still definitely some successes in that alone. Again, relevant and time bound. When are you going to complete that by? So let's talk a little bit about the types of goals. So let's hear from the room or Zoom super quick. What are some goals you guys have set for yourself, either to finish off the year or what you set for this year? Just shout them out, just real quick.
10 deals in the last 4 months.
10 deals, last 4 months, awesome. Okay, so you have a time frame that you'd like to cap by. I love that. And again, that's measurable, right? Are you capping faster this year than last year? Did it take less deals to cap? More buyers, sellers. I love that. Any other goals we're setting?
Stay focused.
Okay. So that's maybe a little bit more time blocking goals, organized goals, schedule goals. And I love that. You can see I kind of broke them down a little bit, and we're going to go into some depth. Personal versus professional. One theme that I heard a lot about at Mega Camp were from mega agents. They had a point in their life where the business was running them, and their personal life was either slipping away, their health was going down, and they hit a point in their career when they realized that in order for my business to succeed, I've got to be succeeding personally as well. It's just like, was it Sherman? Sherman mentioned about, work-life balance. And, if our businesses, if they're not where we want them to be, does that add some stress? And does that take home, some extra stress that we put on other people's plate at home? Are we not as, present at home? Are we a little more stressed at home? Because that's going to rub off on our family as well, right? So I love some of these goals. And we heard right here, and we're in a stressful business. I love it when people tell me they had a stressful day at work. And they told me, and said, well, a customer complained at work today, and it really, ruined my day. I'm thinking, well, I would love it if that was the worst part about my day. Real estate, we have so many things going on at once, and our clients have such high expectations of us and often think that they're the only ones we're working with. And so we're in a very demanding career, and agents can get very burned out in it. And so, especially when I'm meeting with newer agents, I always love to chunk those goals down. So what's your name, sir?
Tim.
So Tim said 10 deals by the end of the year. I love that. And so if an agent were to say to me, they were brand new and said, I want to, do 10 deals by the end of the year or this year in general, well, what do we need to do in order to hit those 10 deals? And of course, we can say, we'll go on this number of appointments and things like that. And we're going to get into a little bit of the economic model. But do we know what we need to do daily? And do we know what we need to do weekly? That if we succeed daily, that we'll eventually hit those 10 closings. So if I'm a real estate agent and my goal is 10 closings this year, well, if I don't have a closing today, did I have a good day? If I've tied it to it, and I'm not going to have a closing every day if that's my goal, but do I know if I talk to this number of people, I gained these few new addresses today, and I gained these few emails and add them to a follow-up campaign? If I know that those small tasks will lead me to 10 closings that year, then I can go home at the end of the day happy that I've done the steps that it's going to take in order to hit that big goal. You know, same thing as weekly. You know, production. Tim, when you set production goals, are you setting them yearly? Are you chunking them down monthly, weekly?
I do a vision board in November for the upcoming year.
Okay.
With goals.
Okay. I love that. And
4 different areas.
okay. Yeah. I love that.
Personal growth.
Yep.
Business.
Yeah. I love that. And that's what's really cool about goals. There's no right or wrong way to set them, right?
You should write it down.
Yeah, exactly. Set them in a lot of different areas. I love that. You know, production goals. I would encourage you guys chunk it down small. You know, database goals. How many people are we adding? You know, how many people are we? You know, we've got our database health score that we're gonna look at. It's so important to know the information about the people in our database. I have a class where we talk about, you know, what are the tech companies doing right this second? And in that class, I always ask, how much do you think the tech companies know about your database? And I ask some follow-up questions by asking, you know, do you know the names of your clients' kids? So the people that are in your guys' database, do you guys know the names of the kids? Do you know their birthdays? Do you know their favorite colors? Do you know your client's favorite colors? Do you know their favorite place to eat? Because if you don't, I guarantee you that Amazon knows it, right? Google knows it. Facebook knows it. All these tech companies are trying to get in between us and the relationship. And right now, the tech companies are trying to win the war between, you know, the 5 to 10 years that someone buys a home. They believe that agents are so bad at follow-up that if they win and close the gap and fill that space between transactions, that they'll figure out the transaction part. They'll figure out how to sell real estate. They can hire people to do all of that. And so it's all data, right? We've been hearing a lot about Keller Williams, and we think of data as a really big thing. But how can we kind of get it a little more local? What if we sent a birthday card to our database's kids with a little dollar scratch off, or, you know, a little, you know, what are some other ideas we can include in that little letter, right? It doesn't have to be super expensive, but so they see our name and our face. That's what a 36 touch is about, right? How often can they see our name and face while we're adding value and being consistent and staying relevant just there? So we're going to break down a few of these right here. So talking about personal goals, and I love what you said about you write them in 4 different areas. You know, what are you reading? What are you growing right now? You know, some people say, well, I'm not a reader. Well, can we get it on an audio book? It doesn't have to be a book a week. Find something that's relevant. You know, time with your family. I think Sherry mentioned it earlier, personal time. You know, does that go on your calendar first? You know, do you guys, really easy to speak from, you know, a bird's eye view, saying, well, you know, right now you guys should be scheduling your vacations for next year. You should already know where you're going. That sounds perfect, right? But do we put that on, or do we get until the last few weeks of summer and say, well, we haven't taken the kids anywhere yet this summer? You know, where should we go? Is it planned? Did you have a question?
I was gonna say, because I am a newer agent, I do feel the struggle of not only setting larger goals for like next year. I don't have anything to kind of go off of as far as this year. So
Sure.
I'm just now starting the goal setting. But what I'm struggling with is that a week ago, I quit my full-time job to do real estate full-time. And when I had my job, of course, it's like it was time blocked for me.
Yep.
So I only had that amount of time to do things. But now what I'm finding is that now that I'm fully into it, like yesterday I worked from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
Like all day long. So it's like I'm kind of struggling with my day-to-day. If I could get like some help with maybe how to schedule my day-to-day.
Yep.
Do you have any links or anything?
I can definitely send you some things, and that obviously comes down to time blocking, right? Making sure that we know. When I was an ATO in Snellville, we had a saying of, you know, what are our glass balls and what are our rubber balls? You know, glass, you can't drop glass, right? Because it's going to break. But the rubber ones, you can drop them, they're going to bounce right back to you. And so making sure you know what is important and what isn't. You know, lead generation is our number one. And to be successful, the goal is to do it in the morning, right? If we get lead generation done first, then everything else will just follow. When we leave lead generation till the afternoon, well, things happen in the morning and then things happen in the afternoon, and fires come up, we put fires out, and then I was it's okay because it's Tuesday. I can just lead generate an extra 30 minutes on Wednesday, and then before you know it, it's Thursday. And I think everyone in this room can hold their hand up to say that that's probably happened to them, right? And so really defining on that, not spreading yourself too thin. I'm going to pass you guys out a piece of paper right now, just while I'm talking. And for many of you, you guys have seen this before. It's a 1-3-5. Anybody here completed a 1-3-5 before?
Yeah.
Perfect. And so I used to do a lot of 1-3-5s. And I'm going to give you a little example today of one that I did, just that lead generation. So to answer your question, I think a lot of newer agents try and do a lot of things. You know, what are a few things that you can do and do them consistently? You know, if I say I'm going to host, if I say I'm going to host 2 open houses a week and I do it for 3 weeks, and then I say, well, I didn't convert anyone, so I'm going to stop doing open houses and I'm going to try door knocking expired listings. And I do that for a few weeks and it doesn't work. And I say, you know, I'm going to go business to business and introduce myself to everybody. You're not getting that time on task. And so trusting the process that if I do 2 open houses a week, even if I don't see the results right now, I know for a fact if I do it and I stay doing it for months and months, that the results will come. And you'll find when they do come, they come fast. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, now I don't have time to lead generate. And that's a little scary thought. And so it's all about kind of that time blocking and the systems. And so we'll walk through the 1-3-5, but knowing a few areas you want to focus on and staying consistent and not just bouncing around. Because how many different marketing activities can we do in real estate? Right? There's hundreds, isn't there? And and different people excel at different ones. And again, that's what I loved about MegCamp. They just did it at a higher level. They weren't doing anything insanely unique. A few of them worked. They had bigger budgets, but they were so consistent. And they had time on task, and they were really, really clear about what they wanted to do, and they implement. A lot of people, we go to MegCamp, we go to these things, and we're motivated, and we come home, and we jump right back into our business, and we don't change anything. So, you know, be part of the productivity coaching program. Make sure that you're talking to other people. You know, what helped you succeed? What didn't help you succeed? What would you do different? And you know, just meet with other agents. And there's a lot of agents that are definitely willing to help you. So, but we can work on you one-on-one with that as well. But just know you're not alone in those thoughts. So, you know, time with family, vacations, health, weight loss, you know, forming a new habit, you know, quitting something, all kind of personal goals that we can be setting, right? So here's a few more specific ones. You know, I'm going to lead generate this number of hours this week. Does anybody set a goal of lead generation? Does anybody have a calendar with lead generation, you know, perfectly time blocked out? I mean, we chuckle because we know we should, and we do some of the time, right? And there's a huge difference between doing something some of the time and doing it all the time. It's like bold. Who here's taken bold? Okay. And is there a difference between someone that goes all in at bold and somebody that gives 90%? That extra 10% in bold, you know, well, sure, I could just hit 80 contacts. And if we did 80 contacts a week, wouldn't that be a really good week? Or that'd be a really good year, right? But the difference between that 80 and 100 is more than just 20. And so, you know, number of, you know, contacts spoken to daily. Of course, we set that goal when it comes to bold. And the number one way to hit that number of contacts is to have a lead generation day. You know, whenever my business was the healthiest, my goal was to not do anything on Monday, but lead generate. And I got that from Brian. You know, Brian Fair, his goal in business was to talk to 200 people a week. And he said, I didn't go home till I talked to 100 on Monday. And I did that every week. And so, you know, that obviously got him somewhere, right? And so if we front load our week, when stuff happens, because it's going to happen, we can feel a little better about ourselves. You know, number of new contacts that we're adding to the database every single week. You know, are we growing? Are we growing the database? How can we go grow it? You know, that's lead generation, right? The open houses. When I was a brand new agent, there was an agent named Rodrigo, and he said, I don't know anybody. And my excuse was, well, you know, all my friends are really young. You know, they're not ready to buy houses and stuff like that. And he went, and all day he would go find a vacant home that someone in our office had listed, and he would hold it open all day long, and he'd work out of it. Had his, you know, agent on duty signs, and he would lead generate. And sometimes people would come through, and sometimes they wouldn't. But he got his lead generation done. And his business grew after about 6 months, really, really quick. Why? Because he was doing like, you know, probably 3 days a week. He was there, and then a couple of evenings, and on the weekends. I mean, this guy was pumping out open houses. but that was on his 135, and that was his main focus just there. Number of new email addresses obtained. New addresses in the database. How easy is it to ask somebody for an address, right? We can, Christmas is coming up, right? And we can say, hey, I'd love to add you to my Christmas card list. Can I go ahead and get your address? And obviously we do send them a Christmas card when we ask that. Hey, I'd love to share some new technology with you. It will keep you up to date with what's going on in and around your neighborhood. Can I go ahead and get your address? Can I go ahead and get your email address? If somebody says, no, sir, I don't want you having that. Well, are they really part of my sphere of influence? Are they my core advocate? Probably not. They can still be part of my database, but my sphere of influence are the people that know me, love me, trust me. And the core advocates are the ones that if I call them and say, hey, I need a favor, I need your help. They can say, hey, tell me what it is, and I'm there to help you. My core advocate's not going to say no for me sharing that information. It comes down to just not blasting them a bunch of random stuff. Again, leads added to our pipeline. Does anybody set goals here that I would love to grow my pipeline by this number of people this week? Again, we talk about, hey, I want to have 15 closings this year. Well, how many people do we need to add to the pipeline to hit 15? How many are going to drop out? How many are actually going to close? Those are all things that we're really tracking. If you're using a pipeline correctly, who's moving along that pipeline? Has somebody sat there for a long time? When I had a coach one time, we spent like 3 weeks looking at my pipeline and talking all this stuff. And at the end of it, she said to me, I think you're lying to me. I said, what do you mean I'm lying to you? And she said, your whole pipeline's a lie. You can't give me a good reason why this person's in your pipeline, why this person's on your pipeline. This person's on your pipeline because they look at $1 million website homes on your website. That's not a real pipeline. And she made me remove everybody. And when I totaled up the number of income still on my pipeline, if I closed them all, I wasn't going to hit my goals. And all of a sudden, that was kind of a wake-up call to me. And we really had to spend some time defining who should go in my pipeline and what are the rules for going on the pipeline, and what happens if they sit there for months and months and months and nothing changes with them. That's definitely something we need to be focused on. Some other goals. How many touches are we going to have with our database every month? Again, on Thursday, I'm doing the 36 touch class. Are we sending them that newsletter? Are we sending them info about their home every month? There's a lot of people, and I think that I can't remember her name. She referred to it. There's people sending out weekly newsletters. Again, I think that's great. That's a little extra work if you maybe don't have someone that you can leverage to do that kind of thing. But if we're sending out a monthly update about their value or their neighborhood and a monthly newsletter with, okay, relevant stuff, that's 24 touches already that we got to think of. Are we having some client events? How many listings do you guys want to take? Buyer brokerages signed. Do you have a running number that if I always have this number of listings at one time, I know that I'll hit my income goal? And obviously closings per month. Some of those are pretty easy to do, right? GCI, some more specific ones, profit. Keller Williams flipped the script for Mega Camp and Family Reunion. Did you know to get on stage at Mega Camp and Family Reunion, you're $1 million producer, and Gary has seen your net sheet and he's confirmed that you do make $1 million? Because do you know how many people that said they made $1 million and they made less than $100,000? Why? Because their expenses are out of line. They didn't focus on profit. And I really encourage you guys, think of profit. There's people out there that are selling, but they're also spending. So if you start with a good habit of not spending too much, expenses, do you have are your expenses out of line? Do you have a goal of reducing some of them? Referrals. There's an agent in the Snellville office, Vance Oliver. He works agent to agent referrals, and he has a time blocked on his calendar where he's networking with other agents. Family Reunion and Mega Camp, you better believe he was spending time in the chat rooms, in the networking rooms, letting everybody know where he is. And if you ever see in Facebook groups and someone says, hey, I've got a referral for Atlanta, it's his name over and over again. Why? Because he spends 4 or 5 hours a week networking with agents. He goes and teaches some classes in other areas and things like that on Zoom. Why? Because they get to know him and they see he's Atlanta. And so again, a pretty neat concept, if you ask me. Do we set a goal for how many trainings we want to attend? And again, the goal, guys, I'd love for you to be in every single one of my trainings. The goal, the truth is, if you are in every single one of my trainings, you're probably not implementing everything. Okay, and so that's something that new agents can fall into, training overload. We train, then we say, well, what do I do now? We go to Meg Camp, we're super pumped up, but did we take just 2 little nuggets with us that I'm going to implement those 2 things? There was a quote from Gary Keller that said, successful agents that are waking up with a plan are selling more real estate right now than ever. I think I got that quote right. Why? Because they wake up and they know what they're gonna do, and that's a big trend we're seeing right now, guys. Some agents are selling more real estate than ever, and some agents aren't selling any real estate. And I guarantee you, they're not doing too much anything special at that high level. Just wake up every day, making sure you're business planning. Time blocking. It might not be every week, but making sure a month. Again, reading some books. So this is a 1, 3, 5 just here, and just know there's so many different ways that you can do a 1, 3, 5. I'm not sure why I don't have my finished version up there. Our main business objective. So often, right there we're writing, a GCI goal, a closings goal, and that's not going to change here. And typically right down here, when I was talking about my 3 specific goals, I had, lead generation, profit, and I can't remember exactly what my 3rd one was, but then I would take each one of those goals and I would do my own 1, 3, 5 about each one. And so I did a lead generation one, and I'll give this to you afterwards so you can get an idea of it. And my 3 goals right here are sphere of influence. That should always be part of your lead generation goal. Again, we know the percentage of deals that come. Does anybody sell more real estate to strangers than extended sphere of influence? If you do, you're probably newer and you just haven't quite finished growing that database yet. Open houses. Why? Well, one, they're pretty much free. They're very available, and there's not that many open houses going on right now. When I go onto our website and Command, it shows you all the open houses going on. And I zoom out where I live, there's barely any. And people want to go to open houses. It's where, they meet agents and where they begin their home search sometimes. And I put for sale by owners there. Obviously, there's a few less for sale by owners right this second. You could very easily replace one of those with, maybe you have kids that go to sport, that play sports. Again, we don't want to be the person on the sideline only passing out business cards saying, hey, do you want to buy a house with me? Do you want to buy a house with me? But do we go dressed with a name badge on and a little shirt? And do we go introduce ourselves to people and not even mention real estate? Do we, provide some snacks? Are we, super encouraging and welcome and encouraging to the kids on the sideline? Because if so, they know who we are. Do we ask questions like, hey, what do you do for business? What do you do for work? Because people are always going to ask you back, I paint. What do you do for business? And again, can you answer that little 30-second elevator speech? Because you got a chance to say, well, I'm a realtor. Or do you have the opportunity to say, well, I have the best job ever. I help people achieve their dreams. I help people buy and sell and invest in real estate. And I love to give real estate advice and answer any questions. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but do you just have a little script? Everybody earlier in the team meeting mentioned about, relationships. The lady in the middle is known for people go to her and trust her and know that she doesn't see the dollar signs when she sees you. She truly cares about you. And guys, that's not something that the tech companies are going to be able to buy or replicate, right? They're not going to be able to do it. Right now, it's a hot market, and so there's more dollars and things like that in it. I'm helping my parents sell their house right now, and we're getting cash offers from investors at more than we could sell their house for in the open market. The house in pretty rough condition. People are paying crazy. Why are they trying to buy market share right this second? That's not always going to be the case. And when the market does shift a little bit, people that have been leaning into their relationships are going to be the ones that win. When COVID first hit us, and everyone's advice was, care calls. Are we reaching out to our database and letting them know, hey, I'm here for you? Who do you know that needs some help? Is there anybody in the community that we need to help? Are there any kids that aren't getting their school supplies they need to, et cetera? Never once did we say, and by the way, do you know anybody that wants to buy and sell real estate? Maybe we worked that in, maybe we didn't. But what happened was so many other agents, their offices closed, and they said, well, I'm going to close too. And they sat at home and they didn't do anything in real estate. And so the agents that were still engaged, they gained market share. And now their job is to keep that mind share and market share, right? Because mind share equals market share. So below sphere of influence, some things that I have, a 36 touch. I want to make sure that every person that I meet, they get set up on systems. And if you don't have a full 36 touch yet, just start it. A lot of people get caught up in perfection, and perfection is the enemy of done. I don't remember who I'm quoting there. If you're a perfectionist, the real estate industry is a really hard industry to be in because you want to be ready before you go. And that's my wife's personality. And it's not always comfortable jumping into something you don't know everything about, right? And we won't ever know everything about real estate. Do we have, a client event, quarterly client events? If you guys don't, if your budget doesn't allow for that yet, what can you do as an office? What can you guys organize together? At Snellville, we did a shredded truck, and all the agents acted as if it was their event, and it was kind of their event. But it was, funds pulled together, marketing was shared, and when your client showed up, you got to meet them. Leverage things that already exist. Pop buys. Are we just, dropping stuff by? Are we making sure they're hearing from us face to face? Are we jumping on Facebook with live video? We didn't have as much talk from Facebook and Google this mega camp as we have a couple of the past ones. I've been in a few classes with them. I think they said it's something like 900 million Facebook live videos a day get watched. And the Facebook live videos that people want in real estate, they're not professional production. It's you standing in the house with the camera turned around saying, check out this beautiful kitchen. Hey guys, I want to invite you to an open house. Do you jump on Facebook Live at the same time each week and have a market update? Even if you know nothing about the market, go into the MLS and pick 3 stats and track them. Hey guys, there was this number of listings this week. This number of homes came on, are new on the market. This number went under contract, and our inventory rate is this. Here's what it means to you. I'd love to personally update you on your neighborhood with more specific data. Reach out to me. No obligation, even if you're not thinking of buying and selling right now. I'd love to kind of give you that information. And I always caution, or sometimes brand new agents, they jump on social media and they get business from it. Just know that that is a strategy. It's not a goal. Okay, because what happens there is we jump on Facebook and we get 2 pieces of really quick business from saying, hey, everyone, I'm a real estate agent who wants to buy a house. And sometimes that works. And I get a couple pieces of business, and then I think, well, that's all I got to do. Jump on Facebook and say, who wants to buy a house? And they'll buy it with me. And then all of a sudden, 6 months goes by and nobody else answers that call, okay? Use Facebook as a strategy to kind of convert that. So open houses, how many a week are we doing? Do we have a system around open houses? There's a class in the drive of convert more open house leads. And we talk about a full system around an open house. What are we doing meeting the neighbors, whether it's door knocking, a personalized local Facebook ad, whether we're just leaving something for them. Invite them. Every neighbor is nosy, I promise you, including you and I. And if I can go check out a neighbor's house and see how it compares to mine, mine's better, so I can sell it for a little more. And when they come into that open house, do you have some great info for them? Are you welcoming? Are you friendly? Do you find the right balance of asking questions and not pressuring them? So there's a lot of scripts in that one as well. And what's neat, when they sign in and we get their names, well, we can go to the tax records and we can go ahead and pull their address and we can send them a thank you card. Hey, thanks so much for coming. Here's my information. Again, don't underestimate that. Directional signs, making sure that the open house is listed on every website. Then the last one, for sale by owners, previewing, giving them information, making sure to update the market, introducing them to your vendors. Hey, here's my amazing lender. Anybody that wants to make an offer on your home and write a contract, you should absolutely require that person to talk to this lender, and here's why. This lender will protect you and take great care of you. Again, it's more of an end game with for sale by owners. If they don't convert, they're going to list. There's a large percentage of them that list, and they're going to list with, most likely the person that's being consistent in adding value to them. And found the balance between pressuring them to list, if that makes sense. It's a delicate balance. Now, some are, full closers, and you can be a full closer with a for sale owner. That's okay. Some people approach from the relationship, kind of the more steady standpoint. Just stay consistent in what you do. So think about the 135. It is a really neat tool, and it can be used. I prefer a 135 than a 411. The 411 for me broke my goals down I found like I was repeating my 411 a lot, and sometimes I felt like it was just harder to track there. So when someone asks you to do something, does that business-wise, does that fit into my 135? When I hear about this shiny object at Mega Camp, well, does that complement my 135, or am I adding a full thing? Because if so, I probably need to remove something. And if I've already been doing it a couple of months, I'm going to lose that time on task. So be very cautious on when you hear new ideas in real estate and you make the decision of whether or not you're going to pursue those ideas. So we are going to jump in to Command real quick and just talk about some of the tools that are in here. So right now, when you guys are using a pipeline, what are you guys using as your pipeline tool? Anybody? Our brains, our memory? Do we have someone else about our pipeline? Okay, so that kind of tells me that there is a chance that we aren't using pipelines to quite the degree that we could be, and that's perfectly okay. Has anyone ever made a prospecting call before and someone said, "Oh, great news, I just bought a home," or "I'm under contract with a home," and it's with a Keller Williams agent. You guys are amazing. And anybody ever made a call and been told that before? No, again, I have. And why? Because I didn't do a great job with my follow-up and they fell through the cracks, and I had an opportunity to convert them and stay in front of them, and I didn't. And someone else did. How many real estate agents are there in the state of Georgia? 5,000, 107,000 in the state of Georgia. Yeah, 5,000. There'll be a lot of business out there for us if it was that. But why is it that the top 20% sell so much of the real estate, right? You heard of the Pareto theory, the 80-20 principle. The top 20 are responsible for 80% of the sales. And you can go through almost every real estate office and see that there. And again, it's about building systems. So we're going to jump in and just look at a few tools. And again, don't try to implement everything that we talk about today. So the first thing when I log in, I see my database health score just here. And if we go into the reports function or the reports applet here on the left, we're going to see a slightly expanded version here of our database health score. So again, we went on the left side into reports, and here are 5 numbers that we're looking at. Just know over the next couple of few weeks, these may not be accurate. Okay, there's a big update coming for this applet right this second, and so you may add someone to your database and add a phone number, and this number not change for a couple of weeks. It will update, I promise. But right here, you can see I'm doing a pretty good job when it comes to phone numbers and emails. I got a pretty good number of addresses in there, but I don't have everybody set up on a neighborhood. And the main reason for that is I imported these contacts, a large portion of them, and I didn't auto assign it. And so, I get an opportunity to go through in the filters, excuse me, in contacts, go filter who has a neighborhood, no, and apply that filter. And that will tell you everybody that you currently either don't have their address for, or if you do have that address, you haven't gone into the contact card and just told and basically almost refreshed it, retyping the address, and it will attach it to a neighborhood. Because then we get the opportunity to, set them up on a monthly neighborhood nurture. We can go into the saved search tab in the contact card and set them up to get push notifications as a seller. We're going to be covering both of those things in our class on Thursday. But right here, you can see where I'm really slacking, right? Obviously, home anniversaries. Excuse me. I'm not going to go call my database and say, "Hey, when did you buy your last home?" That's everybody that's bought a home with me. If they haven't bought a home with me, I'm not going to wish them a happy anniversary. So this is something we start doing from the future. Again, 36 touch, any excuse we have to call someone or to say hey to them, we want to take advantage of it. How cool is it to call your past client and say, "Hey, happy anniversary," and that may or may not know what you're talking about. Say, hey, you know, we closed on your home 1 year ago today. I just wanted to thank you again for that opportunity to represent you and for you trusting me. I love working with you. And again, our goal is that's not the first time they've heard from us, right? Since they closed the deal, they've gotten used to hearing from us, almost to the point where the teams that really ask for referrals, and if you go back and watch anything from Mega Camp or take anything from Bold, really lean into the promise. You know, Sherman touched on it. So many people talked about the promise, and in your buyer brokerage or your buyer presentation, your listing presentation, letting them know, this is my promise to you. And part of the promise is asking them to promise something in return. And if I do give you that exceptional value, customer service, and take great care of you, you know, do you in turn promise that when you hear about family and friends that have real estate needs or questions, that you'll connect them to me and I'll take great care of them? You're sitting right in front of you. If they say no, it's because they've already chosen not to do business with you. And if they, and so they're going to say yes. And then when we call them, we get the opportunity to say, hey, you know, remember when we made that promise together? I just wanted to make sure I'm still holding up my end of the deal. Is there anything that my team or I could be doing better for you at this time? You know, by the way, as part of that promise, have you heard of anybody recently that is looking at buying and selling? And so when I was newer into real estate, I would much prefer to call strangers than I would to call my sphere of influence. And I found that I was still getting some business from my sphere of influence. And then I realized that I actually kind of like working with these people a little bit better than the people I don't know. So why is it that I haven't been reaching out and calling my sphere of influence? And it was, I didn't want to bother them. Well, somebody flipped my mindset a little bit on it one time, said, well, you know, has a friend ever called you and said, hey, you know, I'm in a deal right now and it's not going well. I need your help. I need your advice. And obviously to that person, we kind of have to say, you know, well, you know, you're in an agreement with someone. I can't really offer you that advice. You know, maybe they ask you a question and you say, well, here's what I would do in a situation. And I quickly realized that I could have been helping that friend buy or sell that house. And if I was, I don't think they would have been in that really tough situation. And a little extreme, but you know, maybe it's my fault that they ended up in that because I selfishly didn't make a prospecting call to them because I didn't want to bother them. And then they ended up with an agent that didn't know how to help them in the transaction. That's a little bit of reverse mindset, right? But it's really easy to say, I don't want to bother my people. I don't want to bother them. Well, are you bothering them? Do you know what you're going to say when you call them? Is what you're going to say actually relevant? If it is, hey, do you know anyone that wants to buy or sell right now? I probably am bothering them. But if I'm calling them and saying, hey, you know, I'm just checking up on you again. I know interest rates are going up right this second. And, you know, I've you know, let you know for, just wanted to remind you, we have a no cost refinance, you know, through my company, no obligations. If you know anyone paying, you know, 4% or higher on an interest rate, I can likely save them a couple of $100 a month. Who do you know that I can help save some money right now? We're not bothering them then there, right? We're reaching out to see how we can help them. And if it's them, they're going to hold their hand up. And again, if we convert them and stay in touch with them, they want that no cost loan to buy as well. So again, are we adding some value when we're calling them there? So that is, this right here pulls directly from the, you know, from your database. Right here, when it says compare, there's a few things that are going to come up. One, it's going to compare, the gray circle is going to be the agents in your market center. And you can actually come right here and say agents in my state. Yeah, we're kind of semi-mirroring each other. You know, all agents. So again, fairly, you know, not huge things, but a lot of times, you know, when we meet with people that are struggling and we go through the lead gen, a lot of times they say, well, I just don't know who to call. Well, right here, this is how I need to call. To find out, I need to improve my birthdays. You know, I need to make sure I'm getting some more addresses. And then it just comes around to having a script around that just there. So again, that's your database health score as one of the tools that are inside here. The next one that I just want to talk to you guys about real quick is goals, and then we're going to jump into the pipeline. Right here, so is everybody familiar with the economic model? No? Yes? Kind of, sort of? Okay, that's okay.
The path is in the map.
Yeah, you know, the economic model is really going to break down, you know, How many people do I need to be talking to? You know, we start, and you can go both ways with it, but we're going to start with, you know, how much, and you know what, let's go ahead and do it. Because right here, if we go into reports, we go into goals, and then we go into goal settings. This is a little Kelly guide that we get started on. And right here, it's going to ask us some questions here on the right side. You know, what's your goal? What is your GCI goal? And really importantly, just readjust the screen. The next thing it's going to ask us, you know, what are your expenses and cost of sales? Because we want that goal to be a profit goal. Again, I don't want to make $150,000. I want to have $150,000 of profit. Those can be two very different numbers. If you guys are reading the MREA, just know the MREA talks numbers a little bit more from the team view. And so as an individual agent, your profit percentage should be higher because you don't have the expenses that a team has, like an admin, certain things like that. So the difference between expenses and cost of sales. Your expenses are going to be, I have them no matter what. My monthly office bill, you know, my Supra bill, you know, I have a, you know, if we have a business car payment, car insurance, things like that. Cost of sale is going to be, is there a cost I incur every time I make a sale? So that's your split. You guys don't have FMLS out here, I don't believe. Okay, you guys do use FMLS out here? You guys just on a mandatory area, or are you mandatory? Does every listing you take have to go into FMLS?
No.
Okay, so but you guys can use it. You know, in Gwinnett, we're a mandatory FMLS. Every listing has to go in FMLS, and so there's going to be an FMLS fee attached to it. You know, do you have a contract to close person that you use for every deal? If so, that's a cost of sale, just there. So we're going to add those. The next thing we're going to focus on, you know, what do I want my percentage of listings versus buyers? And of course, right now we'd all love to say, well, I'm going to be 100% listings. Anybody want to say that right this second? Yeah, listings a little easier. You know, my wife actually doesn't like working with sellers. She does, but why is that? She had a really bad first seller experience with a friend, and after that, you know, buyers are just, you know, buyers don't blame me, and things like that. And so, you know, there's a little bit of a different mindset. It's all about, you know, time on tasks, right? Listing agents, you know, they got a lot of systems built, likely, you know, they've got some experience. But just know as brand new agents, don't have the mindset that I can't go take listings. Okay, you win buyers and sellers the same way, building relationships. I don't put anything in for leases. If you guys are working leases, make sure you guys have some systems built around those. Do you know when their lease is going to expire? Your goal is to help that person achieve home ownership. And, you know, we've got about 6 months to really pour into them, help them fix their credit, that sort of thing. So, you know, what is our average commission per unit? I think your guys' average price rate is a little lower here than more Metro Atlanta. Our office, when I was ATL in Snellville, we were at about $312 as an average price point. And so, you know, you guys will calculate that and just calculate it a little bit low. And then if you hit it, that's great. And then when we go onto the next screen right here, we're going to see that funnel effect that we talked about. And so, because we're going to talk about how we report these numbers in a minute, and just know this first number dictates everything. And it's not the perfect, and I don't love it, because this leads to contacts. So, you know, if this is using leads as inquiries and contacts to people we're having two-way conversations and relationships with. And so if I only prospect through my sphere of influence and through open houses, I mean, my lead to contact is going to be close to 100, right? Because every single person that comes into my open house to talk with, that's a two-way conversation. And, you know, I'm going to eventually have a two-way conversation with my sphere of influence. If you're heavy on internet leads, this number is going to be a lot lower there. So I put it at 85%. If you guys don't do internet leads, have this number be even higher than that. And then the next number, how many of those contacts will we convert to appointments? And so, you know, the golden number is we should be getting 6%. We should be doing business with 6% of our database. You know, there is kind of a golden number. If most of us hit 3 or 4, we'd probably have really healthy businesses as well. But that's what a lot of people are trying to attain to. And so, once I've set that appointment, how many of them are kept? I think I have in there 80%. We have no shows. We have cancellations. I've gone on listing appointments and the seller hasn't been home and, they forgot about it and we talked that morning about the listing appointment. And so again, I want to estimate low. Appointments kept to agreement, 75%. Some people say, well, I convert 100% of mine. That's good. We should go on more appointments if that's the case. 75%. Anybody think that's high, low? Kind of about right? About right, sure. Once we are under those agreements, how many of them go pending? So obviously right now, most of our listings are going pending, right? But is anyone seeing a trend of buyers hitting the pause button? They got a little burned out, lost too many offers, maybe even a little intimidated by prices going up and say, we're going to hit the brakes for a few months. Stay in contact with those people, guys, because half of them are going to buy next month, even if they say they're not going to. Don't give up on them. Keep sending them those properties. Keep asking them, hey, I know you said you wanted to hit the pause button, but I think we should go out this Saturday and check this home out. It's a really great one. Keep them engaged, and our job is to keep them motivated. Okay. When I bought my first house, I got my license halfway through buying my first house, and I still kept working my great agent. We made 20-something offers. Okay. I didn't have a real income at the time. It was just my wife's income, and she didn't have great income at the time. And we had a $90,000 budget. This was in 2011 when every buyer was a cash buyer. And that was it. And we made 20-something offers before we won our tiny little house that we eventually sold and made about $80,000 on. So our agent could have given up on us, pretty easily, but he didn't. And so under contract to pending, I have 95% just there as well. We'd love that to be 100. Unfortunately, that just isn't realistic. So I think Jason talked about setting expectations earlier. So that's kind of what the economic model looks like. So really be going through that to think, if I kind of reverse engineer it, how many contacts is that a week? In bold, we talk about 100. 100 is a great number. Does anybody consistently talk to 100 people a week? No? I promise you guys, if you did 60, 70 every single week outside of planned time off, you're still going to have good businesses. I promise you guys that. So we've basically finished that. And if we hit what's next, we can then go to view my goals. And you're going to kind of see, let me see if I can zoom this out a little bit. There we go. So you have your leads, the contacts, appointments. So you can see the funnel going along, okay? And that's why I said be very careful with that first number of leads to contacts, because that's a scary number. It says I need to generate 900 leads this year. This is probably the number that I'm paying the least attention to just here. And so people ask, well, how do I get the system to fill in all this information? Because I've got deals in the pipeline and it's not filling any of my information in. That is an amazing question. We're going to come right here to opportunities. I am going to run about 10 minutes late today, guys. I do apologize. We're going to talk more about this screen in just a second, how we can set goals inside of the pipeline. Right this second, I'm going to click into a opportunity because we create one up here. This one, I am just going to open it. And here on the details tab, if I come all the way down, you see these things here, estimate, appointment scheduled, appointment date, agreement one, contract date. When I fill that info in, it is going to update that information that we were just looking at, those circles. So I'll hit edit. Because the perfect scenario that we're going to talk about in the sales pipeline is this person's been sitting in my pipeline for about 2 months before I converted them. A lot of people are using the pipeline as, hey, I just put them under contract and I need to go through compliance and submit my documents. So I'm going to create the opportunity now, even though they're under contract. That's okay if you're doing it that way. I'd really love for you guys to think of it as a pipeline, though, and we'll talk about that in a second. But as I come down, appointment scheduled. Now I've scheduled it with them on this day, and I want it on this day. I'm not going to fill them all out. You guys know how to click buttons. When we give them this data and we hit save, it will update our reports and goals. So if we go back into reports, goals up top. I think that changed, right? I went from 6 to 8, 8 to 11, I believe. And so that is where it's going to fill out. Again, tracking, knowing your numbers. If you go talk to a mega agent, I doubt there's mega agents that don't know their numbers. If they do, they really need to get with a coach, because then their business is going to explode when they really know their numbers. We want to know this kind of thing when it comes to lead source, when it comes to time to renew our budgets and resubscribe to that service that we've been using. Do we know if we've been getting a return on investment from it? Because if we do, we keep using it. If we're not getting a return on investment, we can probably spend the money somewhere else. So really be thinking about, the reports in your database health score, setting daily goals, and then that goal tracking just there. And so we're going to spend the last kind of 7 or 8 minutes just talking about this opportunities applet just here. So again, people like to use this as compliance because you have to submit your documents to compliance to get approved, to get paid. But as we're looking at it right here, really encourage you guys, look at this as a pipeline, okay? We have our listings, we have our buyers, and we have 5 fixed phases here: cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. We can't edit those, but we're going to click inside them in a minute to see what we can edit within it. And so earlier we talked about how many people a week is our goal to add to our pipeline. And just know you should also have a max number of people on your pipeline. I used to be on a team and we had the pond effect, meaning there was 10,000 leads in one account and every buyer's agent could have 40 leads assigned to them. And that was my pipeline. If they were in my pipeline, if you were the other buyer's agent, you couldn't talk to my leads. But if they were in the pond, the team account, anyone can fish in there. And that really rewards motivated lead generators at the end of the day. And so if I had 40 people in my account and I wanted to add someone, I had to throw someone back in. Why? Because otherwise I'll end up with 200 people in my pipeline. I won't really know who they are. And again, my coach will call me out for lying because I'm just, fluffing the numbers to make myself feel good there. So right here on this right side, we have potential income. We have probable income. This is an amazing goal to be setting yourself right here. So potential income is going to be if I close every single deal that I've got in this pipeline right now, because when we create an opportunity, it asks us, what's their budget? And obviously it's kind of rough. And what's the commission going to be? But if I close everybody, that's my potential income. But we'll see my probable income is just under half of my potential income. And why is that? If I click into the cultivate, just there, you can see again, we've got that same pipeline along the top, but along the bottom right here, slightly lower down, you can see these percentages, okay? And so if I were to say that Alex has a $10,000 commission attached to the opportunity, right now I've got him in a stage that converts at 5%, where it's only going to take $500 of that 10,000 and add it to the probable. It's going to add all 10,000 to the potential and only assign 500 to the probable. So are we setting goals, weekly, monthly, of growing our pipeline by $15,000, $20,000? Because if my goal is to make $10,000 a month, if I only grow it by 5,000 this month, I've got another 5,000 that I need to be catching up with in the next month. And of course, I can drag that along. And so if I go back into opportunities and cultivate, we can edit these stages, okay? And so I set my first pipeline up to be, buyers are 9 to 12 months, 6 to 9, 3 to 6. You guys can customize it however you want to. And sorry for clicking around. I'm going to go into my active listing ones because, so right here, I just define them as coming soon, showing, negotiating. And right up here, you can hit the edit stages and you can edit as many of these as you want. I would caution you to stay between 3 and 5. I wouldn't have, an insane number. But again, coming soon, showing, negotiating, sellers canceling. Why do I still have that in there? Well, I'm still going to follow up with a seller that wants to remove their home from the market because I want to be the person that relists it. Legacies, it can be many things. If you delete something, it will end up in legacy. If something crazy with dot loop happens and an opportunity flies in, it will go to the legacy, things like that. But right here, you'll notice under checklists. So you can assign checklists to every single stage and phase to repeat things. So when I have a seller that's coming soon, here's all the things that I want to make sure that I do And this is great if you're working with an assistant. Maybe you're a husband and wife team and you don't ask, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Well, come here and check it off. If it's checked off, it means it's completed. Right there where you see, we have the word client updates. Does anybody know what client updates are? Nope, good. And so when you create a task, you will have the option, just like here, to decide whether or not a client update gets sent. And so a client update will be, if I list a home and create the opportunity, and then I check these action items off, it will update the seller to say, hey, your agent just did this, 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 and this. And so, there's one in here that says practice price reduction scripts. I'm obviously, if I check that off, I'm obviously not going to notify my seller that I practice my price reduction scripts, right? But if I just created this Facebook ad, I just sent the photos to get this flyer created, just posted this on the MLS. This isn't going to stop the clients from calling us to say, hey, what's going on. It doesn't mean we don't need to update them, but they might get an extra email a week or two from us saying, hey, your agent just did this. And if we click up here in the client updates wheel, it will take us into settings, and you can decide what time of day that update's going to go out on. And so it won't send an individual email every time you check one off. You check 4 off, well, at 10:30 a.m. it's going to send that notification. So if I did those steps at 10:35, it's going to wait until the next day to send those. And this is what the email will look like. I know it says you can change a template. You cannot change a template right this second. If you have the list, if the listing's in KWLS, it'll pull in the listing photo. And that will be the name of the item that you checked off. And there'll be a little checklist there. Pretty basic and simple, right? But these are just a few little systems we can add to our business. And you never know, this person at the closing table might say, I love Bob. Why? He kept me so updated. Yeah, everyone ever hear in real estate that the consumer complains that we don't communicate enough with them, right? And whenever I used to meet with a new agent, I used to ask them, what was your real estate experience like? And a lot of people say it wasn't so great. But what could have been better about it? Always communication. It was very rarely market knowledge. It was very rarely negotiating. It was always communication. I didn't know what was going on. My agent was really hard to reach. And sometimes I felt like I was doing the work. Sometimes those agents are putting in the work. They're just not communicating it to the client. And you don't want to get to the closing table and the client say, you were awesome, but in the back of mind thinking, yeah, you were actually kind of average. Because if you're average, they're not going to refer you to people, right? And so be thinking of that, especially if you're newer. The consumers want communication. And with all these tech companies coming in, trying to do it for cheaper, do you think they can add a personal service element and still be, the cheapest company available? They're not going to be able to, are they? That is not scalable. They can't figure out, the tech companies are having trouble figuring the people part out right this second. So again, kind of a cool little step just there that we can be using in our business. So just a couple minutes and we are done, guys. So, who should go in our pipeline? For me, I have 2 rules of who should go in my pipeline. I want to know your motivation and I want to know your time frame. Motivation. Why are you moving? Does it make sense? If I know your motivation, I can kind of tie in that time frame. We are not selling until my kids graduate from high school. Awesome. Well, what grades are they in? They're a freshman. Well, we got a little bit of time. That doesn't mean they're not going to move beforehand. If they say, well, actually they're seniors, well, now I'm going into the conversation with them to make sure they know that when summer selling season begins, it's not in June and July. Little things like that. I've never sold a house to somebody that said, I don't need to move. I don't need to buy this house. I just want to go look at it. There were times where my pipeline was not strong enough and I worked with those people. Why? Because I was hoping to get a sale. Our goal is to build a pipeline strong enough that we can say, Mr. Buyer, I've really enjoyed working with you. I just don't think we're a great fit to work together at this time. I'm going to wish you the best of luck in your home search. I don't think I have the time to dedicate to you that you're wanting. And I think it'd be in both our best interests if you, form a partnership with another agent. Does anyone here ever fired a buyer or seller before? Did it relieve you? Did you lose a little bit of stress? Yeah. And again, our goal is, do we have a business to where we can do that? I've definitely been in times in business before where I was working with that person I really didn't enjoy working with. Why? because I kind of need what was tied to it, right? And again, not the perfect thing to say, you know, we're always in real estate to a certain extent for money. Otherwise, we'll just give all of our commissions away. It's just that isn't the most important thing. It's relationships and that value that we're adding to them. So again, making sure we're utilizing this pipeline tool right here, guys, because this is just, I can't tell you how many people don't have a pipeline and how many people have just had somebody pop up in their database and thought, man, I forgot to follow up that person. I told them I was going to do this and I didn't do it. And then they don't have the confidence to call them and say, hey, I'm so sorry for not following through on that. That's never going to happen again. But instead they say, you know, I'm not going to make that call now. And I'm not going to make that call. And then before you know it, it really hurts to make that call. And we don't do it and they buy a house with someone else. And so they want to hear from you. If they didn't, they just won't answer. At least that is my philosophy just there. So again, you guys can see we got some little client updates right here. And when I drag, so I have 11 action items that are attached to coming soon. And I can drag another person there and you'll see they've got individual. So you're going to ask, well, why does one say 11 and one say 12? That's a good question. My guess is this opportunity was already created before I added a 12th action step to that checklist. That's probably what happened there. But you know, I can come in right here and I can check off that I've done those things. And at 10:30 tomorrow, I'm going to be emailing myself that, you know, those steps just got completed. So the number one way to see how all this works, guys, is to put yourself in it. Every time we send an email, a campaign, build something, we've got our own self attached to that list. Come in here and create an opportunity and put yourself as the test subject and check out, you know, what do client updates do? You know, what do they look like? How would I want to use them, etc. And, you know, we just drag them along. Pipelines are really, really powerful to use. And we also know, now how's my year going to end? Do I need to be spending more time in lead generation right now because my January isn't looking as good as what I need it to be? Or is my January pipeline looking crazy full to where I'm going to start interviewing contract to close people now? Because so many agents fall in this trap that they're busy now, and they just go find the person to help them. That's the first person that holds their hand up. And then that person doesn't work out. And 3 months later, they say, well, you know, I tried a contract to close person one time. It just doesn't work. I'm going to do it myself. Well, no, you just didn't have the right person in the right seat because we hired in a weak moment. So when, as newer agents and growing agents, when you're doing things that you don't enjoy doing, write them down. When you do things, say, hey, that'll be a perfect thing for me to leverage. You may not be able to leverage it now, but when it comes time where your budget's a little bigger, your business is a little bigger, you can go back to that list and say, you know, for the last 2 years, what have I been saying I'm going to leverage? And that's what you really go ahead and leverage and do. So any questions when it comes to building a pipeline, using any of these goal tools? You guys see a few nuggets that might just help you stay on track today? So again, define what you want your goals to be. I gave you guys like 4 PowerPoint slides of goals you could set. I wouldn't set that number of goals. You know, I'd have, you know, a few personal and a few professional. That's what I'm tracking. Don't try and track 100 things at once. You know, what are 3, 4 things that I can track, you know, every other week, monthly, and just get a hold on our business. So many agents don't really know the health of their business. And in a hot market, you can slide by like that, right? But when things slow down or markets change, that's when now those that have systems and know their numbers really kind of grow and blossom just there. So jump off Zoom if you guys did have any questions. Again, let me pull up these 2 things. Let me see if I can get them side by side. Okay, there we go. Not perfect for you guys. So again, the left one is our Facebook page. Jump in there if you need a little bit of help with something. And again, anything you guys see in our trainings, you know, get with your market center tech trainer. Say, hey, you know, will you help me implement this? If they're not quite able to, you know, we'll jump in there together. I know Alexander's it is newer. We're going to be working closely together to make sure you guys are supported. And what's really cool about Command is, guys, figure out what's the one or two things I want to learn. Don't try and learn the whole thing. There's a lot in it, if that makes sense. There's a lot in it. There really is. Master contacts, master smart plans, and then have a little bit of fun in designs. And